cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome back to the View from C-Deck and another special look at the college football rankings that just came out tonight. The College Football Playoff Committee's CFPC's rankings. Not too surprising this week, to be honest, though. They seem to have gotten it right pretty much down the board. Nothing seems that crazy. Casey, though, I'll ask you first. What did you think when you first saw them?
Yeah, it was kind of like chalk. I was a little not surprised, but the fact that they actually put TCU at 4 ahead of Tennessee, that's what I thought they should have done. And
I had my pitchfork sharpened and ready, and I'm nowhere to go.
Yeah, and then I thought they might put LSU above all those one-loss teams, and they almost put them above all of them, but they did keep them behind the best of those one-loss, other than Tennessee, Oregon.
Yeah.
So I wasn't that surprised. The one thing, the more I look at it, and it's mostly because I don't have any big wins, but Penn State, their only losses are to number 2 and number 3, and they're sitting there at like 14 or 13.
14.
Yeah. LSU, I mean, they have big wins because they beat Bama, but they're all the way at 7, and they got absolutely crushed by number 5, and I guess Michigan beat.
Yeah, so they got crushed by Michigan.
but they didn't get beat as bad as LSU did. I don't think they did anyway.
Worse, actually, barely, by a point. It's almost the exact same score, 41-17 and 40-17.
Okay.
Or maybe it's 40-13 in the Tennessee game. Either way, it's very similar.
Yeah, and, I mean, they had them at 10 last week, and Penn State at probably the same, I'm guessing, or maybe 16.
They were 16, yeah. And
that was before they beat Bama, and their only 2 losses was to us and Michigan. I understand it now being ahead of them, but it just seems like a little bit bigger gap when you actually look at it. I mean, their biggest win, I guess, is probably Auburn, and I'm pretty sure they beat Auburn by more than LSU did.
Mm-hmm.
The discrepancy there is a little bit wide, but that's kind of nitpicking.
It's very, very nitpicky if we're talking about the middle of the rankings this late.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about Penn State?
Yeah, well, because it affects us. But
yeah. Not really. Nothing affects us now. We played a number 3 team. We're going to finish either number 2 or out, or barring some chaos. I guess we could backdoor our way in.
I was glad to see Notre Dame actually getting some love. I was glad they weren't like 24th or something. They were actually like solidly ranked, and Texas keeps moving up. I guess I thought they were doing that to bolster Alabama's resume, but Alabama's done, so I guess they just legitimately believe in Texas. They're going to be the team that could blow up the Big 12, though.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, TCU 4, Tennessee 5, Oregon 6, LSU 7, USC 8. That's pretty much the 8 teams that can make it at this point. Clemson has, I guess, an outside shot at backdooring if there's some chaos and a 2-loss team ends up winning the Pac-12. Because a lot of those, the Pac-12 has Oregon at 6, USC at 8, UCLA at 12, and Utah at 13. And they Utah and Oregon still playing the regular season, and USC and UCLA still playing the regular season. And then most likely Oregon ends up playing one of those 3 teams again, and a rematch, unless it's USC, wouldn't be a rematch. And then you need, but USC still has Notre Dame and UCLA before that, so they could have another loss. That one of those teams has to have up 2 loss. If Ohio State wants to backdoor their way in, if they lose, or Michigan or Clemson, something like that. But I don't see that as realistic, though. I mean, LSU would probably get the nod first if they somehow beat Georgia in the SEC, if they make it there, which we'll talk about that in our gambling podcast. I may be picking against that even happening, but I think right now I think the top 6 are really, top 6 and USC are the teams that really have the chance to actually make it in. And
one more you didn't mention, and if what you mentioned, you were talking about with Ole Miss or with
Ole Miss. Okay, yeah.
with LSU.
I thought you were about to go back to Bama there, Casey, with your little man
Yeah.
crush.
If LSU does indeed lose to Arkansas this weekend, I don't know who else they play, but if they lose, then Ole Miss has a fast track to the SEC title, and they only have one loss.
Yeah. No. Oh, yeah, if LSU loses, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So
If
then
yeah.
they're at one loss. If they beat Georgia, they're guaranteed in. So they need a little bit of help. They need LSU to lose, but it's not out of the question. So I wouldn't say I would count them in teams that have a chance.
I think they still have Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi State before they even get to the SEC championship. I don't see them running the slate.
No, but they don't control their own destiny because they need LSU to lose. But it's definitely possible. Like
Right.
if Clemson wins out, they're not. I don't think they're making it unless there's chaos. And like there's a few other teams you could say that about.
Well, my also picks will be eliminating what you just even talked about. So, yeah, for Ohio State, it's winning in. That's the big thing, and winning probably you're the 2 seed most likely because I don't think Georgia's losing after seeing that. TCU just needs to. I think they could still make it in as the 9-1 conference champion too if they lose to Texas, but then avenge it in the Big 12 championship. We've seen the committee report Oklahoma like that in the past, avenging their only loss and then they get in. They have to, but I would have said they had no shot at that. But this is why I'm glad that they didn't put Tennessee at 4. Putting Tennessee at 4 would have essentially said there's no backdooring in for anybody else besides Tennessee. Like everybody has no chance of passing them if they lose a game beforehand. But now with them being at 5, I think there's a big chance that somebody backdoors in and jumps Tennessee. It just seems like they're not there. That's not a steady ground for them at all, and they don't have any marquee matchups left to like bolster the resume.
Yep, I agree with you, and I'm full-hearted with the stance that a one-loss Power 5 champ should be in over a one-loss non-champ, unless their resume is like ridiculously better, which Tennessee has some good wins, but TCU does too. I mean, the Big 12's pretty balanced. At least the top 6 are all pretty solid.
It's all pretty solid, except for all of them have at least 3 losses already. So it may not end up looking that solid.
Yeah.
I agree that their top like 7 or 8 are pretty good. Like they're not like if you don't bring it, you're gonna lose the game. They're underdogs this week though at Texas, so huge game for them. Because if they win that game, oh man, do you think? Okay, here's a scenario: if they win this game but lose to Texas in the rematch, do they still get in after having gone 12-0?
I don't think Texas can make it if they lose, right? Because then
I have no idea.
they lost. They have 3 losses, so that means they have 2 conference losses. So then they have 3. So
Kansas State only has 2 conference losses right now, so they'd probably be in the driver's seat.
But Texas beat Kansas State, so if Kansas
Drop.
lose again, then so I guess it's not out of the question. But you're right. I'd say they're still in because then they were undefeated and they'd get they showed with that example with Wisconsin that they will punish you for playing that extra game and explain.
And the team that sat at home at 11-1 Bama, but that would be Tennessee in this case.
Yep.
Wouldn't stop me. And Tennessee has a better resume than that Bama team had, like by a lot. That Bama team had no good wins.
And TCU would have a better resume than Wisconsin.
Yes, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's I think where we're sitting at. So I put out my own rankings. I'll give us a preview next week. My rankings don't really make sense till it's all said and done because it's a point accumulation type system. So when teams have big games left, it's skewed versus teams who've played bigger games early.
Gotcha.
And it also really rewards conference champions. So you really don't even know. Like the conference championship game can be worth like 2.5 to 3 points. And the highest team I think I've ever had like 17.5 or 18 points at the end. So it's a huge game. But I'll still let us know how I'm feeling about it. And I think it's a good system. I've had like at least all 4 in my top the 4 teams that have made it have been in my top 5 every year. So it's kind of a good scenario, I guess, to look at. But I guess real quick, we'll ask, who do you got for the 4 then, after looking at the rankings?
Whew. I mean, the obvious is Georgia. I can't bet against us. We got them at home, so I'll take us. And then I don't see TCU running the table. I really don't. I think Tennessee's going to squeak in there, and then I think it's going to be Oregon.
I think TCU does squeak in. They just keep winning. That's all they keep doing is winning, and winning by like 10 every game. It's like they're not like eking these, like winning off the hair of chinny chin chin. They're winning pretty solidly. So I think it'll be Georgia the 1 seed, Ohio State the 2 seed. I think they'll make. No, there's no way that Tennessee passes TCU now. So TCU the 3 seed and Tennessee the 4 seed, and Georgia gets a rematch. Unfortunately for them, I think with Tennessee. But that's how I'm seeing it right now, because I don't see how you make Tennessee jump TCU at this point.
The Pac-12 champ has 2 losses.
I think it won't matter if TCU's undefeated. Oh, you think that they would pass Tennessee? I just think they don't pass Tennessee.
Gotcha.
Ends up with 2 losses either way, because Tennessee played a close. If it's Oregon, then the head-to-head with Georgia comes into play. But you may be right. I mean, it'll really be the test of does the 1 loss. So far, you would be right. 1 loss conference champ has never been left out for a 1 loss team. We were the only 1 loss conference champ that hasn't made it, but Notre Dame was undefeated that year, and they took our spot basically.
Yeah, because they're tiebreakers in their own words is common opponent, where Tennessee would have the edge, but then also conference champ where Oregon would have the edge. Mm-hmm. So their tiebreakers are tied. So then they basically would just pick who they think is better.
Right. Which and
I feel like
and both would be a rematch with Georgia's. Who Georgia killed. Yeah.
But by the final score, they gave them a better game. Georgia freaking dominated.
That's true. All right, well, that'll do it for this quick review. We held it under 15 minutes for once. Thank God. Our rambling asses. But yeah, like us, subscribe. We'll keep giving these reaction videos every week, although I don't expect it to change much from week to week now. I think the first 2 were like the gap between the last week and this week was where we're going to see the most movement. But yeah, like, subscribe, comment below, tell us who you think is going to make it into the playoff, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFromCDeck, and we will catch you guys next time.
Hey guys! Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but the